All right. So thanks and welcome everyone to my session. It's been a bit tricky here without technical preparation, so I'm being thrown in right into the session. So thanks all for joining. And I'll start slowly, just to make sure like everybody comes over still from the other session to this one here. So, all right. So I will today present about SCOM and the managed instance from a customer's perspective. So basically, I want to give you a report a bit what we did with a couple of POCs we did for customers and what learnings we have been doing. So I listened to the other sessions already. So Bob, thanks for a great introduction already. Starting the keynote and later taking this a bit further. I take it still a bit further. So I modified a bit the slides, and I have also a live SCOM managed instance we're going to look at. So that's going to be exciting. So fingers crossed that everything will work. So yeah, let's get actually started and have a look at the agenda. Before we actually come to that, I just want to lay out a bit what at NICE we are doing. So our core business is developing management packs. So, and the management packs, as you know, span like all the way from Microsoft products all the way to very exotic products like Power HA. You probably never heard, only few of them. Basically, cluster solution on AIX proprietary systems. So, and we still see a lot of our customers working in the server space, like on premise. So now I'll say a bit later to that, like how we perceive all the cloud discussion, basically from a bit of a different angle as well. So, and I also like to take this to a further discussion. So I will be later on a panel as well. So to actually discuss a bit what it actually means. So simply speaking, like our bread and butter business is the on-prem non-cloud business, to be short. So, but obviously we've been embracing the SCOM MI for already 3 years. Basically, I want to reflect on the journey we have been doing there and which is still ongoing. There will be a couple of new management packs in the pipeline. I throw it in here because that is coming in the course of this year. We're working on Broadcom, Infoblox, and also VMware Horizon, basically a VDI solution developed by VMware, because Citrix, as you know, is the company's been acquired. There are a lot of changes in there, so companies are changing to eventually to different solutions. So Horizon is on the horizon for us as well. So and there will be other management packs, including the one for AIX. So all right, so now we're going to start a journey. So pack your luggage and we're going to go on a journey. And we actually did this already quite a while ago. So, and we started with the plans in 2020 already. So at that point in time, it was the private preview. So we were not allowed to talk about this. We had to sign our NDAs here. So, and then, well, nothing to be said about that. So, but now in the retro perspective, we can actually review basically what has been happening. So we were part of the in the beginning already on to make sure all the management packs also worked. And when the managed instance becomes available, so at the beginning we had to put ADFS up there and do complicated network topology setups, and then later we went without ADFS, and now we're in the public preview, and basically it's been from Acala to SCOM MI. So Acala being the code name that it was before. I'm not going to spend much time on it because we all know by now what the SCOM managed instance is, so I will not going to bore with that. So we just actually start right into some techniques. So this is a POC setup we prepared for a customer. So we actually wanted to have as complete a picture as possible with everything that is supported. So on the left side, we have the on-premise part here on the slide. On the right side, we actually do have the Azure part, basically what lives in there. And you see there's a lot of networking involved. So, and SCOM also, and Bob also explained a bit before, like how the different subnets are designed. And if you're going to go this route, just follow the description very precisely and you're going to make it eventually. So what we added here in this case is like an additional NAT gateway to actually bring out in workloads from the outside. So like systems that are not within the network scope, so we can reach them over the internet basically to pull data in. So that is also part of the demo I'm going to show in a moment. So, and Here in this environment, we also included Linux systems. So on the left side, you see the little penguin here on BW88, which is a system. And yeah, so the AD is there. And there was always this question from the customer: why do I need still the AD? Can I not use the Azure ID? So no, and even today in the session from Akash from Microsoft earlier, well, they said customers are moving their AD to basically Azure VMs. So it's like I had to laugh a little bit because, well, why do you have Azure AD if you put it up there? But anyway, this is a different discussion. It's like it's a really hybrid solution at this point in time. And when we set this up, what I want to take you in the next steps with you is really like what were the challenges here and what we had to do. So, and let me actually go a bit forward then here with the next slide and talk a bit about prerequisites and where to start. So I give the slide set also to others who are going to start this. Is you need to have a good understanding of the GMSA concept that was introduced earlier, and I think quite a lot already used from you. So for the newer SCOM version, from a security perspective, so that is really key to understand that. And next is actually you need to understand the prerequisites and follow them. And then yeah, there are a couple of techniques you should actually know. So it's not simple, I'd say. So it's a bit tricky. So you have to go through a process to do that. So and you will have a couple of learnings, and I would actually just share the learnings we have done over the course. So and I'm also not covered that, but Bob has covered that already, or it's in the documentation. So also the Azure preparation. Just one thing you should keep in mind, that if you want to do it quickly, it's not going to happen quickly, because at least 6 hours you need to take into account for the SQL managed instance to be created. So you click on create, and it's going to be more than 2 coffees. So you better go to the coffee shop next door and come back like 6 hours later. And then eventually it has worked. And then, yep, you can actually start with preparing and create the SCOM managed instance. So we've been running a couple of problems. So I just like put some screenshots up there. So when you go down the road, you know this. So once the SQL managed instance is created, you really want to make sure to follow exactly the instructions and look at the save button here. In most cases, you're used when you select a property and navigate away from the site, it is saved. In this case, it's not. So you actually have to click save. And I forgot this. And the problem is this: you actually figure out much further down the line, like 3 hours later with everything deployed. And then suddenly, when the SCOM management server tries to deploy the database, it can't, because some permissions are missing there. Another one is like, Bob, thanks for mentioning this. I didn't try it for the last deployment, but the first deployment, I couldn't use the IP ending on 100. So it's strange, but this, the customer asked like, yeah, let's use 100. And I put it in there, and it didn't work. So then domain join, this is a critical piece. And I actually talked to 2 other or 3 other customers, or like partners as well now, who had at the same time problems with the domain join. And one we still couldn't figure out. So it's really key to actually know how the management server that is created is joined to your on-premise domain. So, and the account which is used for that is obviously created, and you can use delegation to give the correct permission. But in the end, you might receive a lot of different error messages, which actually lead to the same cause, that there are some permissions problems. So in this case, it actually says here, the username or password is incorrect. It's like we're running in a really wrong direction and trying to typing in the passwords tons of times with people looking at it. And it's like, no, the password is correct. But in this case, there was a delegation missing on the account to actually join the new SCOM server into the domain, and then it basically failed. So something has improved over the last couple of months. So this error was from February. So there's a couple of months been inbound now. So maybe errors got better, but in beginning of May, I still had another error, which was not very helpful actually. Key vault permissions, you want to understand the key vault and make sure you set the secret permission and not the key permissions, because you want to have the permission for the secret and not the key. So that's important. It's documented, but it's quite easy to actually pick the wrong checkbox when you're not paying exact attention to that. So just want to put it out here. So, well, and then you go through, you deploy your SCOM managed instance, you're happy, prerequisites work through, and then you go next, and then it starts, you go to coffee, it's 15 minutes in, you get another coffee, it's 30 minutes in, and then boom, something doesn't work. Like, for example, the management service is created, and then it actually tries to create a database, and the SQL managed instance has a permission problem, for example, or is not correctly provisioned, and then basically the whole thing stops. It will abort. There's no rollback. So there's no rollback. So in that case, actually, it will just stop, and then you try to figure out what's the problem, and it is not a good advice to restart. It's go back to zero, and then basically start over and clean up before, because even if you use the same management group name, things have been pre-allocated, and you better choose another management group name. I've been using now the month and the year basically, and the counter, because like it's been like at May 23 now when I'm recreating them. So just to keep track of which one of management groups names there are. And you have to clean everything up. Keep in mind, if you leave that running over the weekend, the worst case, you're going to pay for the running VMs, for the running SQL managed instance. But although nothing is working, basically, it's not cleaned up. So you want to clean up at least the virtual machines in the SQL managed instance if you don't need it. And then finally, the deployment is complete. Post deployment, you need to set the SPNs. It's documented, but more or less, so you need to go basically into your ID and complete it on the group managed service account, and go to the properties and add the SCOM server for this is the Microsoft Health Service and the SDK service. Well, and now it's time for a demo. So let's keep fingers crossed that we are getting there. Okay, right. Just closing this. So, okay, good. So let's actually get started here. So we are on Azure, on the Azure portal. We have SCOM managed instance. So this is basically a live environment which is running here. So, and we can actually then connect basically to the load balancer with the properties here, and then so we can actually open the SCOM console. And but maybe before I could quickly show you SCOM infrastructure here. So we have a scale set. So in the scale set, which is deployed, has a number of instances in the scale set, and those are running. And then this is basically the MS0, so the management server with ID 0, and then basically you can connect also to this management server, and the management server is basically a traditional server here, a Windows server with SCOM running on there. So, and yeah, they are the typical services on there. It's nothing special about that. So it's basically lift and shift from your traditional SCOM on-prem management servers. When you open the console, you see SCOM MI, this May 23 deployment I have here. So, and you cannot tell the difference between a regular on-prem SCOM and SCOM MI at this point in time. So it is basically completely, transparent here to what you use. In the beginning, as mentioned, like we do a large amount of management pack. We professionally develop with over a dozen of developers in the United States, in Europe, at different countries here, and we basically also brought all our management packs here to the SCOM managed instance. So what you see here is the Active 365 management pack. So it's basically similar to what you know from the Microsoft 365 management pack, but has extensions in all kind of areas, especially into the Azure area. So where it goes into the Azure monitoring, like service principals, for example. So if you want to monitor service principals like expiration of, for example, certain secrets or certificates, you can do this here in this management pack as well. And as well, we have Teams monitoring. So this is complete Teams monitoring. So the Teams monitoring is not just monitoring availability, but it analyzes also all the Teams records, basically. So I also take a quick detour on Unix Linux. You actually see there's a Linux system on the SCOM managed instance. So and that's basically an on-prem Linux system which is hooked up. So when you when you install when you deploy the SCOM managed instance, you can actually go down and go back to the SCOM managed instance, and you say connect with operations console, and you wonder what happened. It gives you actually download package, and you say like, okay, great, download package, and you will get the SCOM basically installation. And in this installation, you have the Linux management pack. So, well, I guess I can take them and import them, which all works fine. And then you go down the road and Linux configuration, run as accounts, and so on, and then add those to the Unix Linux resource pool, and then they will also be monitored just as a Windows on-prem. You can monitor also the Linux on-prem part. And then we add like additional monitoring, like our Oracle management pack on top of that. So it gives you again the complete picture. So that's basically in short from a demo perspective. So I will go back to the slide set at this point in time here and give an overview. So let's get a moment back to the slides, back from the demo. So let's talk a bit about exact cost. In an earlier session, we saw that the different cost items in there, but there were no numbers. So I thought I just going to put some numbers out here. So what does it cost actually to run a month of SCOM-MI as it is right now? And this is basically what it costs here for us in a POC environment. So you see the most expensive part per day, around €12, is the SQL managed instance, and then the VM and so on. I have to admit they are a bit scaled down, so they have not 8 CPU or 8 cores, they have 4, and also the virtual machines, we did a slightly smaller type. So but as a ballpark figure with this configuration and around €620 a month, you can run the SCOM managed instance, and it does not include the license for SCOM itself, where we don't know the price, we don't know when it's GA, so well, we will then know only, I guess. So that's the part it will cost if somebody approaches you and wonders like how much does it actually cost to run the POC, let's for 1 month or so. You're looking at around that type of cost here. All right, let's do a summary quickly here. And a summary basically gives you the point that the first point here is the prerequisites are limited. So you have a new a PowerShell script you can download and run on your on-prem environment to actually figure out if your AD is correctly configured, if your networks are fine. But again, this is limited. It's only to that. You will only find out that when you start the deployment. I won all my bets by now. So if you good and think you're going to make it on the first attempt, just call me and I'm gonna up for a bet with you. We'll figure out for what, but I won them all for now because you always fail with something on the first attempt. I really bet on this because even if you do all the prerequisites, there's for sure something which is wrong. And yeah, then there's the rollback isn't clean. So in the customer environment, there was a problem because it left some artifacts in the AD. And obviously, if the AD is modified and you don't know exactly what is modified, it's kind of tricky to figure out and clean that up. So, and the third item on here is probably few know because you can scale up, as Bob also mentioned earlier. You can add like another management server for, let's say, 2,000 agent, and then you say, well, I want to go back to 1. Don't do that, because in our case, it actually removed the first management server, so it kind of broke the whole thing. So it scales up, that works, but it didn't scale down in our case. So maybe we're just unlucky, but I just want to mention that. Fourth, well, if you talk about the managed instance, like the patch testing, like when is the system patched, who patches the system? For the SCOM environment, we can actually trigger the patching, but what about management pack patching, and where do start security patches? Like, are you responsible for the server? Are you not responsible for the server? So there are kind of a number of open items, and also if you want to test something, you basically would need 2 managed instances to actually get it to real production here. And gateways don't work, we know that. Yeah, the cost structure is unclear. And yeah, also the last point, like we kept asking Microsoft, like, yes, when it's GA, when do we fix this, when we can get an update? So also as today, also I don't have an exact idea of what's coming. So our summary actually has to be SCOM MI is not ready for production. So it's open for discussion, but for our customers, we cleaned it up basically again. So it's not there yet. All right, so let's go a bit for about what next and what we can expect here. So is SCOM MI is not its final name. Expect to change it. That's been also, I think, became clear today. So that it eventually will move into something Azure Monitor, because, well, we also know the operations manager isn't called SCOM officially. So so that will definitely go away. So go into the different name, and it depends more what happens behind the scenes, what it does mean. So yeah, we can look forward to that and see what is going to happen. And also the second point, the life of the health service this is interesting. So Wei, thank you for your session just before my one here. It is interesting what is happening. Microsoft is replacing the MMA on Azure VMs with the AMA, as you explained very well. So, but as you also said, it's not there for SCOM actually. So, and those who know the internals of the MMA know that there's a life which is coming to an end because of the .NET which is in there, of the embedded database which is in there. So that's also interesting what is going to happen. So, and from NICE perspective, I want to just run down quickly what we where you can meet us, where we can have some discussion as well around this. So SCOMathon is wonderful, and also thanks a lot for all putting this together and for you being here. But we also embrace a lot meeting in person, have a good beer together, sit together, and have a discussion. So that's going to be next in Zurich in Switzerland at the Collab Days. Then we have Experts Live in Germany. Then the next country is Austria, and then we go in September to Prague to the Experts Live there, and then last in the UK again in October. So so if you're around somewhere there, feel free to come by, and we're happy to meet and discuss all of the items. I have one more thing, so I just want to put this out here. It's like, as you might have seen with SCOM MI, we've been going through a process. It's been going up and down, but we all haven't seen that really leap forward, this paradigm change in monitoring for Microsoft. So we've been trying Azure Monitor, and then now we have the SCOM MI. It's like we're trying to bring this together. It's like, and well, there are customers who are relying on this. We have customers that have over 30,000 servers in monitoring. So, and there are large customers that do rely on this. And we got together with a couple of people in the community and some experts, and discuss and see where we can actually ourselves help to drive this. And so if you're interested into this, then please drop me a line either by email or just ping me on LinkedIn. And with that, I'd like to close actually and thank you. So, and if there are any questions, actually, I'm really happy to take them now. Otherwise, we can also do this later in the Q&A panel.